All right, Facebook land, IG land, all of that stuff. James Gardner here. Bonnie Mack is joining me, the one and only Bonnie Mack from Rhode Island, my home always first and foremost. I'm just going to tag this so we can get our ducks in a row here. Miss B Mack, how's Bonnie doing today?
I am doing pretty well.
Awesome.
Littlest state in the union was a little bit cool, but the snow is melting. So, yay,
Nice.
spring!
Nice. All right, there we go. We're rocking and rolling. Okay, come on, baby. There it is. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
All right. Everyone, gang, again, James Gardner. This is my Q&A and my book. Of course, those of you that are catching this know that I'm launching a book in the pre-sales. Bonnie is coming to us from Rhode Island, from the East Coast. A big part of the book takes place. Obviously, it's my story, my place I was born and raised. My heart will always be on the Atlantic in a little historic town called Wickford Village, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And Bonnie, first, I just want to thank you for hopping on. We've been connected for a little while now. I mean, obviously, we went to the same high school. We have a lot of mutual friends and colleagues and all of that. And it's just it's been nice to connect with you and follow you and what you're doing. And so I appreciate you spending some time to help me share my my story.
Sure,
So,
it's exciting.
are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. So, Bonnie, you have been following me, so you kind of know some bits and pieces. You've been on my social. What do you want to ask me? This is it. Carte blanche. Go for it.
Okay.
Have at it. The mic is yours.
Let's start with what I said, the smallest state in the union. Memories of Rhode Island and North Kingstown High School, that huge school. That was like a campus, college campus.
I know, right? I try to explain that to people. And so from context, everyone, right? We went to North Kingstown High School, the Skippers, and it was set up like a college campus, which is, I know it's more common, I think, out in California. However, in New England, not so much. And so, right, we had different buildings, Bonnie, and like I remember distinctly going from middle school to high school, there was this sense of freedom, right? Because you weren't confined in one building and you could walk between buildings and go to the field and get parking lots. And the boys' gym was down on one end, the girls' gym was down on the other end, right, by the football field. And
probably by design for that.
Yeah, true. But I loved, we talked about this a while ago. High school was the thing for me. I know for a lot of people, they're like, I don't know. I loved my junior and senior year specifically was magic for me. Yeah.
I think also that freedom feeling came from going to small middle schools, and then there we are thrown together with regional students, Jamestown and Exeter and West Greenwich, and then you're like, who are all these people? And it was such an adventure. It felt like you're in college, and it had like that same feeling.
Yeah, I never put that two and two together. That's a great point because I went to Wickford Middle, and then all of a sudden I go to high school and I'm thrown in with all these other schools. And it was very similar to the college atmosphere. I remember. Yeah.
There was some deviance going on there too, like, hey, no one would know if I'm not here, right?
Well, that there's the flip side of the coin, right? I mean, with that freedom and young kids comes, I'm going to blow off class and drive to town and get a Slurpee, or I'm going to go for a walk and take a quick smoke out in the back of the
the science building.
Yeah, the science building. Exactly, right?
It was science. It was experimenting.
Yeah, I know.
It was interesting. And definitely what you're mentioning, Wickford Village too. I remember like sitting there in the summertime on the bridge, talking to the guy with the hot dog stand, seeing all your friends, getting ice cream. It was such an interesting small little village, and you saw everybody you knew.
Everybody knew. And Wickford has a prominent place in the story, specifically in the beginning, and then a couple of times throughout, and of course at the end, it does play a role. Um, but you talked about the hot dog man, and I mentioned the hot dog man,
Really?
and yeah, I do. And if you remember, at the corner, which I think might even be, actually I don't even know what it is anymore, by the Hussey Bridge, when you first go in, on the right as you turn the corner to go down Brown Street, there used to be it was like a convenience store,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think it went to become a jewelry store or something, and so Dave, my next door neighbor, and I, Dave, like freedom to us was riding our bikes. It was a mile as straight as the bike rides from Side Out Drive down to that corner store. And go in and we get he would get his Twinkie and I would get my honey bun, and then we would ride to the town dock, and just sit on the town dock and all of that. So yeah, Wickford's it's a magical place, with a lot of history, and I definitely allude to some of that that colonial charm in the book for sure. Yeah.
All those beautiful historic houses, and probably where you maybe had your first job, because I know I worked in a couple of places there as well. So,
Well, it's funny you say that. Actually, my very first job ever was bag boy extraordinaire at Ryan's Market. Yeah.
You were good at the Tetris game or Jenga.
I could do the Tetris. I could actually, true story, I could take the paper bags, Ryan's Market paper bags. I could have two in this hand, two in this hand, and I could snap open so that I have four of them and put them down and start doing it. Right. And it was a lot of fun. And you probably know the Michaelides, Steve Michaelides, my best friend. And so Steve and Ed, my two cronies in high school who are in the book, we all had jobs at Ryan's Market at the same time. So it created some adventures inside the marketplace for sure. Yeah.
It's always fun working with your friends and things like that, especially with a big campus in high school, you don't see everybody every day because your schedule might be different. So
true.
It's always making good connections, right?
Yeah, gotta love the hot dog man though.
I think his name was John.
Well, I remember George. George had the mustache.
Oh.
And George had I can't believe we're having this conversation, but yesterday. George, at one point, George had the hot dog stand, but then George took over and bought the deli. Remember the deli?
Oh yeah.
Which now I think is the restaurant there. Anyways, George had the deli. So he went from the hot dog stand, he used to ride his motorcycle to the hot dog stand, set up his hot dog stand. Then he bought the deli. Who knew hot dogs vendors made money? And then he ran the deli, and that's where we would go for bagels and sandwiches, and things like that. And George had a mustache.
Huh. Yeah. Maybe I knew second generation guy.
I don't know. We should too bad we can get some Rhode Island people. Steve Michaelides, there he is. Hold on. What did he say? Visit my grandmother's little costume jewelry store. Sunnybrook Farms. Sunnybrook Farms. That's right. Steve-O. I don't remember his grandmother's little costume jewelry store. Huh. Steve, if you're still alive, give me some context on that.
Is that was it all the way? It wasn't at the end different drummer or?
It was at the very this end, the beginning as then you go down towards Wilson, past Wilson's. Wickford Deli. That's right, Wickford Deli. Steve is like the name magnet. This guy, he'll remember everybody's phone number from high school, right? Steve, type in who was the guy that had the hot dog stand that owned the Wickford Deli. Maybe I'm wrong, but I guarantee you he'll know. We'll see if it pops up. Anyway, yeah, Wickford, great little place. Great little place.
Okay.
What else you got for me?
What else do we have? We didn't connect about this yet. Candy Stripers The Wizard of Oz. Do
Oh,
a little puzzle
oh,
forming for me. Put the pieces
sure.
together.
I don't. Can you see the comments on your end or no?
I cannot. Oh, you
Okay.
know why? Because I need to probably click on that. There we
Well,
are.
Steve
Hey,
says it was George, short guy, always wore a hat.
George.
Good old George, yeah.
I could just call him John because I couldn't remember his name. I don't
Maybe.
know.
Wow, I'm sure there was more than one hot dog guy there, right? But then you remember you got your hot dog, and then you scooted your ass up on the bridge, right? You
Mhm.
sat on the bridge, and you ate your hot dog. Right? Um, okay, yeah. So B Mac, Candy Stripers, Wizard of Oz, yeah. Well, the book starts off with little Jimmy, side out drive life. Little Jimmy dealing with asthma, chronic asthma, very severe asthma at times. Spent a lot of time in the hospital, a lot. Frequent flyer miles, as I say, to the pediatric wing, which was a true story. They all knew me by name. I had 5 doctors. They all knew me by name. So the Wizard of Oz was the hospital, and the wizard was the doctor behind the white curtain, who would dictate whether or not Jimmy would have to stay in the hospital. And so, he would to deal with his asthma and this fear of not breathing and just being scared. He would fantasize the yellow brick road, and so the road to the hospital was yellow brick road, and he was the lion that had to get the courage to go upstairs and spend time alone in the oxygen tent and all of that. And he had 2 sidekicks with him, his stuffed squirrel and his Steve's gonna laugh, his Captain Kirk doll. This is the exact one, by the way. Had this since God knows how old, probably 5 years old. And that was kind of like the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, and he was the cowardly lion, and so and he felt like he would earn that courage upstairs, and so that's kind of the Wizard of Oz thing, and then that fantasy of the yellow brick road does play a role as Jimmy gets older, and then it becomes interwoven into the adventures that he goes on in life, different experiences and different things. The Candy Stripers, though, and I don't even know if they have those anymore, to be honest with you, in the hospital. But for all of us, that maybe for anyone out there that does not know, right? They're this mythical society. I'm just kidding. They are this group of women that they walk around and they read stories to people, and they kind of bring some units of joy to patients and kids and stuff like that. And so, 2 things. Jimmy was a Christmas elf. Jimmy still is a Christmas elf, fascinated by Christmas. So Candy Stripers had Christmas colors, so it was a win. Number 2, they sparked in him this seed to perform. And so Jimmy would start to read pages from a book that he fell in love with while at the hospital, called Scuttle the Stowaway Mouse. And he would memorize this book. And because he was there often and the Candy Stripers knew him, they would gather and want him to perform whenever he was there. So that's where Jimmy started to kind of get this performance. I like to be on stage, or I want to live out the fantasy of, the in this case, the pirate mouse, searching for treasure, whatever it was. Yeah. And honestly too, later on in the book, especially I can look back at the journey, those damn candy stripers, that seed blossomed into kind of an egoic kind of quest for fame, though, right? And so that need for attention grew into how I associated myself with any semblance of worth, right? The external accolades and all that. So, interesting to see how that grew from a innocent young boy to the stages of New York and so forth. Yeah.
All the world's a stage, and you learned it early. The Candy Striper outfits are almost circus-like to me as a child too, and it's like, I want to have that job. I want to just want to walk around in this crazy-looking outfit, handing out books, giving kids snacks that maybe they're not even supposed to have.
Well, that was, yeah, I know, right? That was
Someone's grandmother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Spent the first 13 years of my life, I was in the hospital every year for sure. And,
Ugh.
some days my average stay would be 4 days, give or take. And I've had I had a few of up to 2 weeks and things like that. So for a kid who, I mean, of course, my parents had to work too. So, I mean, there's a lot of time left to dream. That was my only weapon I had against asthma was the ability to dream at a young age and create stories in my head and adventure and mischief and all that stuff. Yeah.
To be acted out in high school later.
I know, right?
So were those your consistent visitors on a daily basis? It was Candy Stripers or doctors, and hopefully the doctor didn't have that booming voice of the man behind the curtain that tapped some fear into you.
Well, I know. They were all great. It's funny, I had 5 doctors and they were all in rotation. So depending on who was working, they would be the one to admit you. Right. And the night that I opened the book with was the night that Dr. Ryan was the wizard, who happened to be my favorite. And I remember his name. And he was really nice, and the Candy Stripers came periodically. I don't know if they were there. I can't remember if they were there every day, but everyone was great. I mean, like the nurses were great. At the end of the day, though, when you're 7 years old and you're lying, you're lying in a hospital bed, you're alone, right? For a lot of it. And thankfully, my grandparents, who I was really close to, would come and visit, and of course my parents. But South County, as you know, South County, it's not like just driving next door. I mean, it's not that far away, but it's still a trek. If you're working, then you got to go home and then take the drive, and that's okay.
And it's a Rhode Island thing that nobody likes to go over the border because why are you going that far?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's small state thing. That's hilarious. So thinking of childhood and those fantasies, of course, with the books, got to talk about monkeys. Everybody wants a monkey. Monkeys are cool. They look like little people.
Little hairy humans, as I say.
Yeah. So let's talk about monkeys. I love monkeys. Year of the monkey, right?
Yeah. Who doesn't like? Yeah, that's you. Yeah, you're a monkey. Who doesn't like monkeys? I haven't met somebody at a zoo. I can't imagine anybody walking by a chimpanzee exhibit and just not caring 2 cents. Like everybody stops and wants to watch primates, right? So, yeah, I was a monkey guy. I was fascinated with monkeys. I wanted to be an archaeologist, and that kind of evolved into going to the University of Rhode Island, where the anthropology department actually had a monkey colony for research on campus, which is very unique for an undergrad. So I kind of said, this is interesting. And so my professor, Dr. Jim Loy at the URI, who ran the colony, I really looked up to him as a mentor. And so I started kind of following his footsteps, and then I started to be a glorified poop cleaner and would clean the cages and feed them. But then I would also do data research for him and watch and just behavioral research and watch the interactions and all of that. And so that kind of evolved into wanting to be Jane Goodall. I wanted to sit in a jungle in my, green and brown khaki clothes, National Geographic clothes, and watch chimpanzees do their thing. So I knew the way to make that a reality was a PhD, and so I reached out to a world-renowned husband and wife team down in Atlanta, Georgia, and through my reference letters from some of my university profs and the work that I was doing with the current monkeys, they invited me down to Atlanta to see the facility, see if it was something I wanted to do, and meet this world famous bonobo chimpanzee whose name is Kanzi. So, just to give you a context, it's kind of interesting. Chimpanzees, there's actually two types of chimpanzees. There's a regular chimpanzee, and then there's a bonobo. Um, they're distinguished differently because bonobos are darker. They look more like a gorilla. They don't have like the brown chimpanzee facial thing, if you will. Bonobos are the ones that are 99.9% genetically human. Like those are the primates that are closest to humans genetically. So they were working with Kanzi. Most people are familiar with Coco, the famous gorilla that did sign language. And so Kanzi was a kind of a step above that in terms of they created a communication system for him to use keyboard, lexicograms on a keyboard. And he would communicate by putting together sentences or words on the keyboard to say, Kanzi, hungry, wants apple, outside, sunshine. And it would pop up and it would be a sentence, right? And it was world renowned. It was game changing. So I was thrust into this, not thrust, I was welcome into this world to see if it was something that I wanted to do. I was super excited. It was amazing. I got down there, had my own lab coat, walking around with a clipboard, going, my gosh, like Mr. Goodall, I'm here, and then though, Bonnie, the 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 luster wore off, and I realized I'm like, wait a minute, I was watching people, and I'm like, they're all kind of just doing the same thing, like day in and day out. I don't know, like it just seemed very robotic, and all of a sudden I'm like, this doesn't seem very romantic to me, like just in terms of a career of living life. And I mean, I know I had illusions of or delusions of maybe getting in the jungle at some point, but like even that's a small thing. You're either a professor, right, or you're a lab junkie is what you are. And so
You're
I
no
had
better than the monkeys in the cages.
I had 16 hours to think about it on the drive home, a solo drive home. And by the time I got to Rhode Island, um, I was like, I can't do this. Can't do this. And it's just funny. I just had a memory too, as I saw Steve's name on the comments. I remember messaging or talking to Steve and Ed while I was down there, um, because Ed, our other best friend, Ed was trying to set me up with this girlfriend or this girl for me to date while I was in Atlanta. So I remember I was driving home. I was like, well, I may not have a monkey career, but at least I can go back and go out with Jen. Her name was Jen. Jennifer Wilkinson, to be precise.
Wow,
Anyway,
good memory.
I know, right? So the monkey career kind of stalled, and I put the kibosh on that, and then through some serendipitous things, I found myself in New York, where the monkey journey sort of continued because I ended up buying a monkey and had a monkey as a pet. So I was in New York City with an anthropology degree with a pet monkey. I didn't go to a coffee shop as much as Ross did, but I was pretty close, living the Ross life from Friends. Yeah, at the same time that the show was quite popular. It was pretty funny. Yeah.
And what that monkey taught typing is what we do texting now. So it does come full circle. Evolution is kind of.
Well, that is why, and maybe that's where the cell phone idea came from. That you're like, because that's why primatology is a discipline, is to study the social engagement and dynamics of primates, because they mirror humans in many ways, and what can we learn and what can we expect, and all of that. So I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. That's why I say I never left working with monkeys. Never have, really, to be honest with you.
And that also asks another question that is buried in the back of your mind when you say that. Is Facebook being observed by others?
I know, right? Well, I'm sure it is. Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Buy my book out there, whoever's watching then. Behind the curtain.
Just scrolling at the bottom. Read that. Read that. What else do we have? Of course, we have to talk about Scotland. If I shift my camera this way, I've got the Whiskey Trail map of Scotland up there.
Oh, the Whiskey Trail.
If I keep turning my laptop, I can show you my gigantic Scotch collection, but that's another story. So,
full disclaimer:
when you come to Rhode Island and sell your book,
I will. Well, you definitely. We're going to have a Scotch together with a chaser of Innocent Gun for sure. I remember that's one of the things that I connected me to you, is like you always had some Scotch going. You had some cocktails. Bonnie Mac, living the Scotch life. I'm like, fucking right on. Okay, I like this.
put the
yeah, Scotland.
On,
what? Yeah, I mean, obviously, it does play it's a theme in the book for sure, and a theme with my grandfather, of course, Malcolm, who is very close to. I refer to him as the Scottish sage in the book, and he's a character that the readers have really latched on to. He's probably one of those. We have those characters you see in a film that are just a very supporting cast, but you're like, oh, I love that character, right? He always says the right thing, or he's always in a spot and provides something. And that was my grandfather. Yeah.
Definitely adds to that romance that you talked about, the heroism part, maybe enchantment or disenchantment with what you've done, because it is a very enchanting place.
Yeah.
Magical. We're all unicorns.
I know. Well, it's funny. Like, you just made me think of something, Bonnie, that I really hadn't thought of. And it's pretty cool. I think that romance, a lot of that, the idea that I have now, like this romance is a state of existence and all of that. I really feel that I got that from my grandfather, through his counsel and his viewpoint, because I didn't get it from my parents. I love my parents. We have a great relationship. They're still together. But it was just different. Like, I never had in-depth, heart-to-heart, deeper conversations. And it was my grandfather who, would share stories about the fighting aces of World War II and the planes he would work on. He would talk about Charlie Parker and play his music with scotch, have some scotch, and tell me about the complexities of the way that Charlie Parker played his jazz and all of that, and share those things. And then he would, he built a house, so the house that he was living in was the house my mom grew up in. And he built that entire thing himself, while working full time. And he spurred me on to some really milestone events in my between like 16 and 23, 22. He was a huge catalyst for me uh, of growth into that next level. Yeah. But I never really looked at it that way in terms of romance. And now you just made me realize that. And so thank you for that. Like, wow, I didn't, yeah,
I think
I
it
just,
also speaks to your resiliency from your trek from Jimmy to James as well. Um, we all know Scottish people are call it maybe a little bit tough,
no.
but we all have our soft spots. So it's kind of
Yeah. So Scotland it is. Malcolm, long live Malcolm. That thread is there. And then of course it does come back towards the end of the book and has a story plot line that interweaves in, and it's a big thing. And I'll be fully honest and putting it out there. I do have plans to go to Scotland with this book. You're damn Skippy. I do. And, I'm going to travel around and, you know, um, it's on my list and it will happen. So I feel like I'm called. I only have a handful of places that I'm really called to go um, in this world that I must see, non-negotiable, and that's number one. I've always been called to go there. So, yeah.
amazing place. And yeah, it's unforgettable. I wanted to burn my passport and be like, I can't go back. What am I going to do? I'll live here forever. Who knows?
Nice.
Maybe that'll be your book number 2.
Maybe, maybe I'll go and trace the roots of the Matheson clan, and then kind of maybe create this hybrid of a fantasy reality story, blending of generations together. Who knows? Yeah.
Going through some castle ruins and Loch Alsh and all the other
Oh,
areas around Argyle. That'd be fun.
nice, nice.
Get yourself the full kilt.
I have the tartan on the wall and my grandfather's stuff. Yeah, I actually it's on my tattoo. So this tattoo is part of the book, a part of the storyline of the book at the end of the book. But I have the Matheson clan tartan on the kilt and the cape of the conscious warrior. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent. Should I prompt one more question, or
What are we doing here? Why not? We're Rhode Islanders. We can talk all the time. This is great.
Seeing as Rhode Island has probably more coastline than most other places, and luckily the snow is melting. So I was thinking of like, hey, I'm gonna get my kayak out soon, throw that in the water. Let's talk about your rowing.
Nice, you're a kayaker. Way to go! Good stuff.
After a while, it's like can't put it on the top of the Jeep. Arms don't go up, but progression of muscle building.
All right.
And extra friends.
There you go. Friends with benefits. So, rowing. Yeah. Rowing's my life. I don't know, what else to say other than probably no other single thing has impacted me more and set me on a course of events in my life than rowing, and what it's done for me physically, mentally, spiritually, also, romantically, but also romance in the state of rowing to me is such a symphonic sport. It's a dance. It's beautiful, it's violent, and it's got this code and this tradition. It's steeped in tradition. It's one of the oldest scholastic sports there is. And it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood. So yeah, I took up the sport of rowing much against the well wishes of my pediatric physician, my pulmonary physician. And I showed up and nothing was ever the same for me after that Monday night at 7:30 p.m. In room 101 in the University of Rhode Island in the auditorium. I walked into a world, and I saw a slideshow, and it took it took all of 30 seconds, the beginning 30 seconds of Where the Streets Have No Name by U2, and backdrop with some images of rowing and this movement and this stuff. I was like, that's it. I just knew I had to. I wasn't in shape. I was asthmatic. The next afternoon I had to show up and run a 3-mile loop around the back of Keeney Gym, two loops or whatever it was. And, I had never run more than half a mile in my life without stopping. And I just felt called, and I'm going to try to say this, because I will always get emotional when I talk about rowing and talk about specifically URI. But I knew, like, it was showing up that afternoon at the gym with a bunch of strangers, going for a 3-mile run. I finished last out of, I think, 12 men or something, 12 boys, young men, whatever. But I kept going. I had my asthma inhaler in my pocket, and I remember puffing that periodically. Just had to keep going. And as I turned the last quarter and started coming back, I realized that every one of those 11 guys were standing there waiting for me, clapping. That's when I knew. I was like, this is different, And those handful of those guys were my boat mates for 4 years. We lived together. We bled together. We cried together. We won together. And we have some amazing memories. And one particular memory, my second season in 1989, was a magical year. And there's a couple chapters dedicated to it, because it's just a beautiful sub story. And I say that because I know it is, because I hear it from people. It's probably the best part of the book will be the best part of the book for many people. Yeah.
We were chatting about what sports can do, and obviously you've lived that the pride and maybe a little bit of ego and maybe some resiliency, other good qualities that come from doing sports. A little therapeutic, maybe a lot therapeutic for you.
A lot.
But yeah,
it's a lot. Yeah. I mean, all of those things, really think about it, right? It ticked all those boxes for me. And ultimately, it was the best medicine that my asthma ever needed, because it strengthened my lungs and my heart. And it wasn't like all of a sudden I had this magic formula I was taking that to quiet my asthma. I just had the ability to breathe, and my lungs became stronger. And so all of a sudden the asthma attacks weren't as severe, because I was able to breathe through it. I had the diaphragm power, right? And my heart was stronger from beating from all the training. And, after that, I never had a severe asthma attack again. Right. I went from senior year in high school to a near-death experience to never having another asthma attack again.
It's a cure. Definitely being on the water. I don't know if it's just because I'm a New Englander, but being away from the water, I can't imagine living anywhere that's landlocked. I think I would probably die. Inside, I would be hollow.
Well, I have to say, I'm probably the same. I've never lived anywhere else but by the water. I mean, well, when I lived in Manhattan, Manhattan's an island. I mean, the water's all around us. And then in LA, I mean, technically, because I lived right in Hollywood Boulevard area for a while, you know, the ocean's not that close, but it's not that far. You know, you just drive west and it's pretty close. So it's close enough to feel like the ocean was still somewhere there. Yeah, so I can't imagine being landlocked for a period of time. The ocean's my muse. The ocean's my sanctuary. You know.
It's definitely always makes me feel relaxed. And then, of course, again, that same thing, that feeling of freedom. Um, and maybe you have to do a little fighting, because if the current takes you the wrong way, you gotta learn pretty quick how to get yourself back.
It's true. It's true, and you know, it's interesting. I bring it up in the book. There's a handful of times I talk about Beavertail because that's always been my place that I go no matter what. Whenever I go home, forever how long I'm home, I always go to Beavertail on the rocks, and I sit and I just stare out the Atlantic, and that's my that's my thing. That's my jam. You know, my hallowed ground, if you will. Yeah.
Thinking back to high school, like that was a party place. So
I know, right? Well, I've drinking a few beers there. Although I will say, for us, it was more so Breton Point. We'd go to Newport, and then we'd go to
Mhm.
the park in Breton and crank some tunes and throw back some brewskis and
Nothing better than that view. It's
oh, I know.
just
Oh,
beyond the mansions, and you feel like, hey,
right?
I feel like I fit in here somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe
You know,
eventually.
it's interesting. People people either know Rhode Island or they think it's Long Island. There's no in between. They either know Rhode Island's like stunningly beautiful, so much history. They know about the mansions. They know about the tall ships. They know all the colonial stuff, you know, or they're like, oh, it's part of New York. Right?
No.
It's one or the other, you know, it's just one of those things. Uh, yeah. At least in my travels, whenever I say Rhode Island, they always think it's Long Island.
Long
Yeah.
Island's okay, but I'll take Newport and Aquidneck Island over that any day.
Can we just talk about Newport for a moment?
Oh yeah,
How magical is Newport?
awesome. There's so many things to do year round. It's
Year
amazing.
round, you know, you got the waterfront. You can walk the shops, the stores, the bars, the restaurants, the history, um, the the architecture too. It just has that old style feel, you know. Yeah, just I love it. I love it so much there. And I mean, obviously, it's a gong show in the summertime. That's okay though.
Summer people. The cliff walk
Mm,
any time of the year is interesting. You know, have like raging seas that are kind of like keeping you from doing the whole cliff walk. If you make the whole way, I think it's 7 or 8 miles, but
yeah, yeah,
some amazing houses. There was a lot of construction recently, so that's kind of interesting to watch the evolution of what's happening there too. Um, but always interesting. Good place. Take your dog,
yeah.
your family, work off all the fish and chips you've eaten.
I know, right? Clam cakes, chowder.
Chowder. I was gonna try to sneak some Rhode Islandese in there, but I don't think I'm good at it anymore. I've trained it out of myself, and it might slip out. You know, I won't say soda or pizza on
Uh
purpose.
huh.
But
Yeah, you know, you brought that up. You don't have a Rhode Island accent, nor do I. Thank the Lord. And people do mention that to me, like you don't really have that accent. Of course, no one really knows what the Rhode Island accent is. They think it's like Boston, or they think it's New York, or you know, they don't really, but they know it's like, but aren't you supposed to sound a certain way? I'm like, yeah. You know, if you heard my mother, she'd be like, Jimmy, supper. You know, like she'd do all the R's and all that, and but yeah, no, I never did. So that thankfully, thank you.
gotta
Uh,
get your iced coffee and
iced
you know,
coffee from Duncan.
Your Dell's
Double
lemonade in the summer.
summer. Yeah, I know. I know, right? Good old Dells. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I just want to say that, I mean, and again, I know you probably have to go. We're just kind of rambling now, but it's good just to talk to somebody from Rhode Island. I talk about in the book, I do talk about the rust of time, how things seem to degrade over time. We lose the essence of conversations. Like, I know I sat on that town dock with Dave eating our Twinkies and having these amazing conversations. I can see it. I just can't remember what they were and things like that. And, the buildings don't look the same anymore as you get older. And um, it breaks my heart, though. I have to say this. It breaks my heart every time I get back home and I drive down Post Road. I'm like, whatever happened, like North Kingstown, like that whole strip, Post Road strip between, as soon as you get out of Wickford, all the way till you get to East Greenwich. It's just, sad is the only way that I look at it,
It's desolate. There's not much
Yeah.
happening there.
It's run down. It's desolate. It's barren. Things closed. And I know that's time too, but I don't know, like the perception of anything is everything, I say. And, when we were younger, I know for a fact it was a hell of a lot more vibrant and full of energy and full of life than it is now. And I just,
A lot of mom and pop stores. Like I said about Wickford, a lot of friends that we went to high school with worked in those stores. So you went there to visit them, to go to Calori's and get your shoes or whatever. And whatever that happened to be, the first job lot store. And we all thought, what is this place?
right.
Ocean State Job Lot. And now it's like, I can't see Naco in there. Come on. We all have to be thrifty sometime.
I know, right? No, for sure.
Fun things about Rhode Island. Yep.
Yeah, maybe we should do a Facebook Live series. BMAC and JG, things about Rhode Island you never knew and maybe you wish you never did know, or something like that.
Good old reminiscing of high school and everything else.
I mean, again, I'll just put it out in the universe. I have this fantasy, though. It would be awesome to get online with a bunch of people and have like a group Zoom and just shoot the shit, like, high school reminiscing and just, checking in and see what's going on. And that's what I've learned about this process of writing a book is through conversation, through actually writing, it's doorways to memories that we forgot, to memories that we had locked away or that just, we lost their meaning. And it's been really profound for me to re-experience some of these things. And I know that, especially being removed, as I am removed from a lot of my close friends and schoolmates, yeah, like you can't go back in time, but you can through sharing stories, having conversation. And that's a beautiful thing. And that to me ties in perfectly with the inner child of the book, which is really, that's the book. That's what the book's about. The hero within is the inner child, getting back to that in each of us, Yeah.
Well, I say do the Zoom or whatever it is. And that'll be interesting. Our high school was so huge. I think, I graduated out of 400 and some students. So maybe we could get people from each little clique and then share experiences and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Or I didn't experience that. That would be kind of cool to know what your high school experience was like, even though we shared the same school and around the same year that we graduated. Sure. So I think that would be really fun.
That would be fun. And we could all like, what's your recollection of Mr. Henry, Ralph Henry, science. Right. Everyone's got their Ralph Henry story, right?
Right.
Like things like that. That would be a hoot. That would be so much fun.
The Sullivan brothers, They worked with my mom at the Ground Round. We could go on forever. I don't want to hold you up all night.
Oh my God.
The peanut shells on the floor. That was great. Now it's probably like, you're gonna have a lawsuit. You can't have fun anymore. Like, oh, come on.
Red and white. They had the red and white kind of checkered pattern, and you had the peanut shells everywhere. Yeah. Wow.
Dredging up more memories.
Memories. I know, right? Well, Bonnie, thank you for chatting. This was great. And thank you for playing with me and just sharing some stuff about the book and helping me just get it out there. And this is for everyone watching. This is meant to show you little glimpses and insights into the book, and because it's a very interesting and dynamic, layered story with a lot of emotion, a lot of different things that will draw people in. And so we're trying to share some of these conversations with different areas and really spark some interest. So this book can live, and I can do the work that I'm called to do, which is to get out and inspire people, and to really have all of us reach for that hand of our inner child and walk side by side in adulthood with wonder and joy. Yeah. Cool. Well, Bonnie, you are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And mad love to you in Rhode Island. And when I get out there, which will be soon, we'll definitely be connecting and be awesome. Okay.
Excellent.
We'll have that scotch for sure.
Yes.
And, and by the way, sorry, publicly, I have to acknowledge, thank you for turning me on to Shetland. Like, remember the Facebook thread? We'd go back before you were recommending some stuff. Broadchurch was absolutely game changer for me. Obviously Shetland, I love Jimmy Perez, love that character, love him to death.
I still watch the reruns because I'm like, remember how fabulous this was? I can't let this go.
I know. And Hinterland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in Wales. That was very interesting because I can't pronounce anything Welsh because there's like no vowels and a Y.
So because of you only strengthened my resolve for the UK. I went and got BritBox. I've been binge watching. I'm watching Wallander right now. I know that takes place in Sweden, but it's still a really good one with Kenneth Branagh.
Awesome.
Yeah, really good. So thank you for that. You're amazing, Shetland.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. See, we could go on tangents all the time. Okay.
We should have our own channel.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as a guest.
All right.
Good luck.
Cheers.
Bye.